Hi everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Tax Tips channel. My name is Cherry Chen, a chartered professional accountant located in Oakville, Ontario. My goal is to become the Google map for Canadian investor who's seeking financial freedom. And one of the things that we talk about is usually one of the things that I talk with my clients about all the time is about owning properties inside a holding corporation and how to get financing. And today we are super lucky to have someone that I met through Stock Hacker Academy, one of my other businesses, to help us get a better understanding on how to qualify for financing using a corporation. Hi, Andre.
Hi, Jerry.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And by the way, this is Andre Matos. A proper introduction.
Yes, my name is Andre Matos. I am, an investor, a real estate investor. I'm also a mortgage advisor with Scotiabank, and I'm also a stock hacker. Thanks to Erwin and Cherry.
Yes, we met at Stock Hacker, and I can't believe how big it has grown to. I think it has over 800 students right now in the Facebook group. I'm always grateful to meet people like you and all other people through this network, because if I don't invest in real estate, I don't feel like I would meet these many people.
No, I love, and networking is something that I really appreciate. I love to do it. Mm-hmm. And yes, the Facebook has grown so much. And it's so many people and questions. And, those questions, even though the basic questions help us just to review the content and to learn more and more.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love the networking.
Okay, so our Stock Hacker Academy is always targeting the real estate investors. The reason is because real estate cannot really generate much cash flow, at least not when you invest locally. It generates a lot of capital appreciation. So one of the things that we help our clients to do at my accounting practice is to set up holding structure. I was having this conversation with you, and you said that, well, I have no problem getting financing in corporation, which is music to my ears. And that's why we're where we are here talking about it. Tell us a little bit about your real estate investment first.
Yeah, well, we have a holding company. So we started about this journey about 6-7 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Okay. The market has been really, really good for these past years. But we started the journey, and we decided to have a holding company because the income at that time comes inside the corporation that we own, my wife and I, and then we want to flow the money to the holding company and use that money there to invest. The problem is that back in 2000, I think 1 year, 2 years later, it came modification of the rules for the finance, and then it becomes really hard to get finance. We're getting a lot of our investments on the holding outside of the bank at that time, but we had to switch to the bank. One of the reasons I decided to learn more about finance and join Scotiabank is because I can help you other physicians, other professionals that have a holding company and wants to invest inside the holding company. Okay.
Yep. It sounds like you guys own a small business in the corporation.
Yes, my wife is a physician, right? So she's incorporated, so the majority income from her comes inside the corporation. Ah. Okay, so that's why we decided to use the strategy, having a holding company.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, if you earn income active business income within your corporation, you only need to pay as little as 12.2% in Ontario. And typically the way that we help our clients structure it is to use that extra retained earnings, after-tax retained earnings, to purchase properties in a holding company, in a separate corporation. And so I help many people set up corporations, and the biggest question that I always get is, how do you get financing? Because I get a lot of people saying that, well, my friend is telling me that I can't get financing. I'll always pay a little bit more interest rate if I get corporation, and it's impossible to get financing within corporation. There are so many different rumors. Is that true?
No, the qualification for corporation when you buy inside the holding company is still you need personally to guarantee. You need your guarantee. So the qualifications is in you and your spouse. In a case if you have a spouse, is not the corporation itself or the holding company. Okay. What we do is that we strategy that one the deal in a sense that we can use sometimes the income is not sufficient personally to qualify. Okay. We use some of the income from the corporation because remember, you keep money inside the company, you do a deferral on that one. So you're not taking everything that you could take for your corporation. So it's a combination of adjusting the qualification, the personal, but also bringing some income from the corporation, some capacity.
Oh, cool. So this is we are specifically talking about active business. So Andre's wife is a doctor and she earns her income in her professional corporation and then her medical professional corporation, and then she is retrieving the enough amounts to herself to pay for her daily expenses and maximize the amounts that she's keeping in the corporation, because if she keeps everything in the corporation she only need to pay 12.2% tax. So now not just your wife, but a lot of real estate agents as well as small business owners out there and also doctors and dentists, they would then accumulate a large amount of cash sitting in their small business corporation. And when you invest, you lend it to the holding company. But then because they are minimizing the amounts that they're reporting in their personal name, it makes it super hard to qualify for financing. And what Andre described there was just to use the corporation, the small business corporation, to supplement the income being reported in the personal name to allow them to get more financing inside the corporation. Now, my follow-up question is that a lot of the people that follow me are not necessarily owning a small business. Would they still be able to qualify using the holding company?
Yes, they're still able to qualify using the holding company, but again, only if they pass the stress test. It's very important that people understand that because we need to follow the stress test rules, and sometimes that reduce the capacity because you're trying to take less income, okay, and consequently you're reducing your capacity. People need to understand that you have, if it's your income is variable, let's say you get commission or a bonus is an average of 2 years income. And if your most recent year it's less than the previous year, it will affect your capacity again. So it's something that I talk to people, just keep a conversation open with your financial, your mortgage financial specialist, but also with your accountant. So both understand your goals.
Yeah. So so let's say I have a couple who are married, both of them are working. Let's say the combined income is about 200,000, which is pretty average for real estate investors out there. They leverage against their home and then they now want to purchase inside a corporation. And so they put the money into the corporation to buy. Would that be someone that you would be able to help to qualify for financing inside a corporation, assuming that they don't have any other properties?
Yes.
So that you would be able to qualify, but it's purely based on their job income.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's remember when I spoke, you can the holding company will be on title of owning that property, but you need to qualify. The applicants need to qualify personally and will be the guarantors of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now my next question, it may be getting into a little bit nitty-gritty here, technical. So my next question is, if you if we earn rental income, would that rental income be counted toward qualification purpose, mortgage qualification purpose? I'm sorry, I'm a real estate accountant, so I kind of know all these questions.
I know, but some people don't know it. That's important to qualify. Yes, I will use the income from the rent as to boost up your income for the qualification. And if you own rentals at this point, we're gonna use that one as well. But it needs to understand that we only use 50% of the rent because the other 50%, the bank thinks that you're gonna pay, property tax, condo fees, maintenance, vacancy fees. So we only use 50%. And from those 50%, we're gonna take the mortgage payments that you have, So if the final number is a positive, it means it's a surplus. It goes towards your income again to boost it up your income. If it is negative, it goes to a shortfall. Then it goes to your liability. So it affects you how you are. So it needs to be a strategy. It needs to be built, and it's a case by case.
So then it kind of feels like you really need to focus on buying cash flowing properties, or at least at least a break even property, to make sure that you can continue to buy more properties. It sounds like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Correct.
Yeah. So let me just step back and clarify a little bit more. From what you just described, because this is news to me. We never got into this much in depth earlier. So 50% of the rental income, let's say if you collect like $4,000 rent, which is pretty reasonable in a legal duplex, $4,000 rent, and then $2,000 is being counted toward the mortgage coverage to see if it's enough to cover the mortgage. The other 50% is really being used to in the eyes of the bank, is being used to cover the property tax, the utilities, and insurance, and all the other expenses. Correct?
Correct.
Ah, okay.
Correct. So if, in your case, the rent income is $4,000 and you pay $2,000 mortgage monthly, which means that you're breaking even, because we're going to use, from the $4,000, we're going to use $2,000 minus your $2,000 mortgage, then you're breaking even. Okay, but just remember, we're not going to use only if you have a shortfall because your cash flow is not that great. It doesn't mean that your deal is not good. We're gonna combine with other things to help you to the deal to be approved.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting, because I never understand how that, some people are always telling me, Scotiabank is only counting 50%, and then TD Bank is counting whatever percentage of the rent. I never come to understand that percentage of rent is really just count toward the mortgage. They're not really counting toward the other expenses. So, wow, that's cool. The other question that I have, I know I have lots of questions. The other question that I have is, how many properties can Scotiabank finance?
If you qualify, up to 10 properties, and then it goes to exception.
Ah, cool. And then, so 10 properties, if I qualify, assuming I don't, assuming I get enough income to qualify for 10 properties, are they all 80% loan to value?
I always request 80% loan to value. Okay, depending on the number, the bank might come back and ask a little bit more down payment, but I always work my deals 80% loan to value.
Oh, cool. Now, I have some common questions too, more questions. The other question is, now, people often having a hard time getting financing inside a corporation. Now, one of the most common, I don't know if it's a misconception. One of the most common question about qualifying is that, what about your terms? If I would pay 2-3% more interest compared to if I were to qualify in my personal name. Is that true?
No, not in the Scotiabank. What we do there is that if it's a rental property, we add 0.15 BPS. Okay, so let's suppose if the rate is 2%, it's going to be 2.15%.
2.5.
Yeah, no, 2.15.
Oh, 2.15.
2.15. Okay, and if you want 30 years amortization, we add another 0.10. So it's going to be 2.25. Okay, just an example.
Now, that's really good. Now, so amortization, is it also the same as if I were to own it in my personal name?
Yes.
Oh, so amortization period is
yes,
the same.
25 or 30 years.
Oh, cool.
Okay,
That's
and
awesome.
I always suggest for investors to try to get the 30 years because of the cash flow. Okay,
Absolutely.
I understand your point. You pay 0.10 BPS more on your interest rate, but I try to explain to the clients that it's not all about the interest rate. Yes, the interest rate is important because it affects directly your cash flow, but you need to check all the other components of the mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as the cash flow is good, and that's why we try to do 30 years.
Okay. Well, it also goes back to our our earlier conversation about how like 50% of the rent is going to cover your mortgage. The longer the amortization period, the better the mortgage coverage calculation is, which helps you to finance more properties in the future, which is awesome. Now, I also have another question. I have so many questions. Adam over there, my videographer, is laughing at me. Next question that I have is, I don't know if it is the last question, but in my head right now it is. The next question that I have is, so now that the corporation owns the properties and I get a mortgage directly in the corporation's name, and I personally guarantee it, which is the case in every single bank, with every single residential rental property purchase. And actually for commercial purchase, they also ask for that too. Now, my question is that loan registered in my personal credit report?
It depends. For Scotia, we are not doing it at this moment, but it can change it at any moment. Okay. So, and the one thing that I always, ask it to my clients is to be upfront and disclosure everything that they have, especially with myself as a mortgage advisor, because if I don't understand your case scenario and let's suppose my underwriter find out something behind, then it's going to look bad for both of us, and it's going to be hard for me to fight for your deal. So absolutely. If you have more properties that is showing, you need to disclosure that one upfront with us.
So that is exactly what I do with my clients. I tell them to share with the mortgage broker, their advisor, 100% everything. Even if it doesn't get registered in their personal credit report, it actually does get registered, but it's just being registered as a personal guarantor. It's not part of the calculation. If they were to go out to buy a larger home, typically they don't count those mortgages. I don't know, I can't say for sure, but that's how I tell my client, always disclose everything and make sure that they're fully aware of what kind of guarantee that they're providing. Whether they count or not count those debts, it's up to the bank to decide.
Exactly, and remember, the underwriter can make a search in your name and see all the things that you are a guarantor of that. And if he finds out that you own other properties that we did not disclosure, he's going to come back to us and say, what is good about this? And then will affect your ratios and the probability of your deal to get it approved.
The funny part is though, I did have a couple of properties in my corporation, my holding company. And then this, I could even use my commercial space, my office condo here. We own it. We personally guarantee 25% of the loan. And we sign as guarantor. And none of the bank ever asked me about that guarantee. None of the bank asked me about this whole mortgage. It is held in a holding company. So I thought that's always very interesting. Yeah,
it depends on the type of mortgage as well. Because if you buying something that is more commercial, it's treated completely different than a residential. You need to realize that one. So if I'm buying a place for my business to run, it's going to be commercial, and commercial is treated completely different.
Okay, cool. Now, my last question, I promise. It's my last question. Andre hasn't had lunch yet, so I'm so sorry. Questions. Now, my last question. I have a bunch of clients who are real estate agents, and they were just allowed to set up their corporation late last year. And so they set up the corporation and they started earning their hundreds of thousands of commissions in the corporation. Typically, they have very low expenses and high income. And it's the first year of business that they are in. Now, actually, I do have two questions. Great. So one question is, I always get asked, which I know the answer and I always share the answer, is that can an active business company, so in their case is a real estate, personal real estate corporation, the PREC, or in your wife's case, it would be the Professional Medical Corporation. Can these companies buy the properties directly and then qualify for financing directly?
Well, they can't, but it depends on that one. I think the Medical Professional Corporation, depending on the regulation, is not suggest that you don't have investment property except if you run your clinic there. Okay, that was when we discussed at the first time with our accountant, the previous accountant, say don't do that one inside your corporation. Open from the active, open a holding company, and hold all the investments property inside the holding company. Okay, that's what was suggested at that time.
Yep.
For us to do.
So, but then from a bank perspective, I'll share this with you. Not a few years, maybe a couple years ago, I was trying to qualify for financing for one of my rental properties in my holding company. And back then, when I opened the holding company, it was a number of years ago. That was the first company that I opened. And at the time, we weren't incorporated or anything. So we got some extra referral commission income. And we always put it through that corporation because we don't have any other corporation. That was the only one. And so we continue to get a couple $1,000s active business income in that holding company. And so when I applied to one of the big 5 banks, not Scotia, for a mortgage, the first underwriter missed the active business income and they approved it. And then he went off on vacation. So then a second underwriter came on and saw that I reported like $2,000 active business income. And they don't like to see it. They don't like to see more income coming to the corporation. And they said, well, why are you reporting active business income? We don't deal with active business company. We only deal with holding company. Is that true?
No, it depends on the scenario. It depends on the client. Okay.
Oh.
Each case is going to be individually checked because we are not the same. So you will assess the situation. What is the company? How is the income? And then we'll see if we get approved.
So they don't. In other words, they don't need to set up a second corporation. Like they don't need to. Like for example, a prac, they are allowed to invest in real estate. They are allowed to do investment. For risk segregation purpose, we don't recommend it, but the question always comes from like, can I qualify for financing directly in my prac? And
if your practice allows you to do that, in the case of the Medical Professional Corporation not, okay, then you can try.
Yeah.
You can try to do that when approved.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Now, my last question was originally my last question. I got sidetracked. My last question was that if like these people just set up their corporation, they're earning good income. It's the first year in the corporation. They were carrying on business as sole proprietorship in the past. Would you still be able to help these people?
We're going to do the average of 2 years.
Oh,
and I would try to explain why they switch and trying to use the same one, the income coming, and how is going to be the expected income. And then we're trying to build a case and try to get it approved.
So, okay, one more question. I promise this is the last one.
I think one question opens to another conversation, another question, I know.
That's always the case, isn't it?
Yes, it's always the case.
Yes. So if like clients, it's always clients asking me these questions. Do I need to pay myself excess cash? Like let's say for a real estate agent who net $150,000, and typically he would report the $150,000 in the personal name. Now he's incorporated, but he truly just needs $60,000 to carry his own lifestyle, to support his own lifestyle. Now, so he only take out enough, that $67,000 to pay for his expense and personal income taxes. Okay, so on his personal side, he only reports 67. Now in the corporation, he made 150 and minus the 67,000 minus the tax, he still has some money left. So the question comes in, like, as an accountant, they always ask, can I declare more dividend to myself to qualify for more financing? Because I need to pay I need to pay that dues to qualify for more financing. Is that true?
Well, what we can do is that I use this strategy for a lot of professional special physicians, is to use part of the income that they're not taking out of the corporation to boost their income.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to use the average of the 2 years minus the dividends, 60% of the net income before taxes. Okay, and we're going to use that one to help to boost it up your income.
So
okay, there is a specific program on the Business for Self Plus that we can use that.
Awesome, that's great. So that means I can continue to buy a couple more properties.
That's exciting.
without I would say without going to B lender. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
It's a lot of information here, so hopefully everyone get a chance to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you find it useful, make sure that you give us a thumbs up. Until next time, see you.
See you. Thank you.